Hello, you're watching TVP World Talks. I'm Jonasz Rewiński. Hungary's new government, under Prime Minister Péter Magyar, has embarked upon an ambitious project of political transformation, seeking to dismantle the vestiges of the Orbán government, despite the latter's efforts to entrench the remnants of his power even after the elections. But can the Tisza Party reject the temptation that unlimited power can bring? And can it walk the fine line between liberal reforms and the conservative values that many of its voters continue to hold on to? Joining us here today is Orsolya Ráczová, Senior Analyst from the Eurasia Group. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
So do you think that so far the project that Péter Magyar has initiated, so basically getting rid of the enduring influence of the Orbán administration, is it working out successfully so far?
I think so far it has been working out successfully. It has been basically more or less 100 days since Magyar has been in office. Often we call this as a honeymoon period because there is still quite a lot of enthusiasm about the new regime. Expectations are high and usually people are more forgiving if not everything works out the way the new government wanted to. But I think that the government has been moving forward with extraordinary pace. And that despite some of the challenges that they did not anticipate, for example, the issues around the power plant, the drought, the heat waves and so on, that they had to manage as a crisis situation. I think despite of that, especially on their anti-corruption agenda, they have been moving very fast. And they also already have some results, some fulfillment of electoral promises or promises on election night. For example, the removal of the president. So basically in the first 100 days, the Prime Minister can say that he has successfully not only removed the president, but managed to replace him with someone else, even if temporarily, but still all of this has happened. I think this is, for example, one of the most outstanding achievements because it's legally not that straightforward to remove a president. And apart from that, there are a number of other issues that we could mention.
Right, but the presidential issue has also been controversial. You've mentioned the legal aspect of that. And some critics say that was not really so clear-cut, that basically cutting the president's term short, even if it might have been politically justified, was also something that raised a few eyebrows among the legal community and beyond. So do you think that it was done in a way that is going to fall within what we consider to be activities consistent with rule of law? Or are there still controversies which remain unresolved in this regard?
It is true that it happened quite quickly. Yes, some of it seemed like the government was not prepared well for example, the nomination of the first potential candidate also raised a lot of eyebrows and addressed some questions. But then the Prime Minister actually apologized that this was so hasty. I think this is something since basically election night, the Prime Minister has been saying that the President does not and have not fulfilled its constitutional role when it came to, overseeing the government, but also stand up when it comes to quite serious of corruption issues, but also child abuse issues that the President basically didn't say anything. This was, for example, one of the criticism against the President, basically the silence. So I think there were some good arguments the the Prime Minister has made. When it comes to the rule of law and the legal questions, I think the Prime Minister, basically what he did, he used all the legal powers at his disposal. So I don't think that he did anything which is legally questionable, and not to mention the fact that the opposition has actually tried to also use all the possible legal means to challenge this decision. They referred it to the Constitutional Court, and the Constitutional Court ruled on this as well. That's a whole other issue, that the Fidesz government actually made changes within the capacity and what the Constitutional Court can do. And now the Constitutional Court's powers are much more limited when it comes to overseeing and ruling on the content of legislative changes. Their power applies more on the procedural part, and this is what the Constitutional Court could do in this case, to kind of re-examine whether the procedural part was done right, and that's also a legislative issue. And they ruled that it was in line with the Constitution. So yes, it did happen quickly. Yes, there are also other promises that they will change how the president is elected. That's why we are also talking about a temporary arrangement. I think the real test will come whether the Prime Minister does fulfill these promises. And that includes whether he introduces changes to how the president will be elected, how much public consultation will be when it comes to rewriting the Constitution. These are things he promised, but this is not something you can do in the first 100 days. So I think he did what he could in the first 100 days. But yeah, this will be, I think, a much bigger test, how he will manage all those kind of promises where there is a bigger aspect involved, and that's consulting the public, which might also include critical voices that they will have to face with, and how they will deal with that.
All right, speaking of tests, some critics are saying that the only thing that stops the current government from perhaps repeating the mistakes of its predecessors is a remarkable degree of self-restraint, because you basically have one party in power, they have a strong majority, they do not have any coalition partners to block any sort of more questionable ideas which may appear along the way. The opposition's influence is limited, likewise. Do you think that Tisza will be able to follow up upon those 100 days and really not only maintain the self-restraint, but also to continue restoring the checks and balances, which will in the future apply to its own members? And for any politician, obviously, you know, this is a temptation. They want to remain in power, and self-restraint alone, some people say, might not suffice.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's something I've been thinking of from the very beginning as well. But I think I'm quite optimistic. I think there are early signs that point towards that, at least in my opinion. And one of these is, for example, introducing limits and limiting himself as well, that the Prime Minister did, that he kept his own mandate to 2 mandates. So basically he can serve for 8 years, so he can be re-elected only once, and then he no longer qualifies. So that's how he sort of, I think, preemptively kind of went against those critical voices that were saying very early on that he will just be building a dictatorship, and how will it be different from the previous regime. I disagree with that, and I think with this move he proved that. And of course, partially this was also to stop Viktor Orbán to come back to power. Of course, after this legislative change, Viktor Orbán has can no longer compete in the next elections, or can be nominated as Prime Minister, but neither can Péter Magyar after 8 years. So that makes me optimistic. I think also the bigger issue is whether his political party, Tisza, which exactly as you say enjoys a huge constitutional majority, is a very short-lived party, and it's a different political party than we have known, especially compared to Fidesz, which has established structures. It has become a large party, a large organization. It is declining now, but that's another question. And as opposed to that, the Tisza Party has a completely different structure, a lot of loosely affiliated structures, very small membership, not to mention that the members of parliament, most of them are not experienced politicians. So they have
So of course it's going to be a test for them as well, on the other hand, as time goes by. For the time being, we have to park our conversation here. Orsolya Ráczová was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your insight.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm Jonasz Rewiński. You're watching TVP World. Please stay with us for more latest news and updates.